Hello everybody, let's take a look at the poetry groups of literature today. We'll begin with metaphysical poets and the other groups will be dealt in the following classes. Metaphysicals are a poet group of the 17th century. The term metaphysical poets was coined by Samuel Johnson. Now let's take a look at the characteristics of metaphysical poets, or rather metaphysical poetry. The first and the foremost characteristic is the use of irony and conceits. Now what is conceits? Metaphysical conceit is a literary device which makes far-fetched comparison between a physical thing in the world and spiritual aspect of a person. As you move further in this slide, we'll see some of the poems of John Donne and all, and where you'll get more clear idea of this concept. Okay, they've used unusual comparisons in their works, the usage of unexpected similes and metaphors. Their topics included love, religion, morality, etc., and they've used far-fetched imagery in their poems. It was Samuel Johnson who said, "The metaphysical poets were men of learning, and to show their learning was their whole endeavour." Now let's name the metaphysical poets. John Donne, Henry Vaughan, Andrew Marvell, Abraham Cowley, George Herbert and Richard Crashaw were the main metaphysical poets of the 17th century. Now let's take a look at the works of John Donne here. John Donne is a preeminent representative of metaphysical poets. The important works of Donne are Death Be Not Proud, The Canonization, A Valediction Forbidding Morning, Holy Sonnets, etc. Now, just for the sake of understanding, let's analyze the poem A Valediction Forbidding Morning by John Donne in order to understand the metaphysical conceits he has used in that particular poem. So, in that poem, for you to understand, I'll say a brief summary of the poem. The poem is all about the poet preparing for some journey and he's bidding goodbye to his wife. But he doesn't want her to cry and be very emotional when bidding goodbye to him. But he wants her to stay strong, believe in their love and believe that he will come back for her wherever he goes. So that is what the poem all about. So he compares their love to a twin compass. Just like the legs of the compass are fixed, so is their love. So is their love so strongly fixed. Okay, just as stiff twin compasses are two, just as the twin compasses remains stiff to each other, likewise their love also will always remain as fixed. Okay, thy soul the fixed foot. You form the fixed foot of the compass. Okay, your love forms the fixed part of the fixed leg of the compass. Makes no show. You won't show any symptom of moving away from me. You are always the fixed part. But I am the one, or I am the unfixed part of the compass, or the unfixed leg of the compass, which shows a tendency to move away. But I am not going to move away permanently. Just like a compass is fixed at one point, I'll come back to you. We will remain for each other just as the two legs of the compass does. Okay. So in the previous slide, we saw John Donne comparing his love to a compass. A weird comparison, right? We never think of comparing love to some mechanical thing like a compass. So that is how they compare things. They compare two contrast things so that the comparison can be made effective. Now let's take a look at the works of Andrew Marvell. Andrew Marvell was also a 17th century English poet. The main work of Andrew Marvell is To His Coy Mistress. He wrote a commendatory poem for Milton's second edition of Paradise Lost. And To His Coy Mistress, if you analyze that particular work, in that work he is ascertaining the concept of carpe diem. That is, you should enjoy your life today as you are not sure of what is going to happen tomorrow. He is telling his beloved that if we had the whole time in the world, if we had enough time in this world, your shyness I would have enjoyed. But now we have a very short lifespan and we are going to die soon. So it's better that we make love now, enjoy life now, and make the full use of life now when we are young and energetic, rather than wasting our life and mourning for it in the old age. So that is what the poem all about. To his coy mistress, coy means shy, he is telling his shy beloved that there's no point in being shy now because we have no time with us. That this is the time for us to enjoy, and I cannot pardon you if you remain shy now. So let's make use of the time and let's make love to each other. That is what Andrew Marvell tells in this poem. So he tells her that time's winged chariot is hurrying near. We have no time left. Okay, time is compared to a winged chariot. It's a chariot with wings which is coming to grab you up. Okay, so one day you will be grabbed by the winged chariot of time, and then you will not have any more options left to love. Okay, the long preserved virginity of yours will be eaten by worms in your coffin. Okay, he compares his love to a vegetable. My vegetable love should grow, he says. So, such weird or extreme comparisons metaphysical poets make in order to emphasize the concept they are trying to explain. Okay, he also says worms shall try the long preserved virginity. So if you remain virgin till death, there's no use of preserving your virginity till death, because one day when you die, the worms are going to try the long preserved virginity of yours. So instead of that, better give it to me and let's make good use of the time. So that is what Andrew Marvell tells into his coy mistress. Okay. George Herbert. Now let's analyze the work of George Herbert too in order to get a fairer idea about the metaphysical conceits. Okay. In his poem The Pulley, Herbert uses the mechanical tool like a pulley to compare the relationship between God and man. Okay, he says God has deprived man of the rest so that he can pull man back to himself. So he has given us all pleasures, but he has deprived us of rest so that he can pull us back to himself, just like a mechanical pulley does. Okay, so we cannot even imagine of comparing a divine relationship between a man and God being explained with the help of a mechanical device like a pulley, right? So that is the extremity of similes and metaphors that metaphysical poets make, and that is what makes their work different from that of other writers. Instead of using nature's similes and metaphors, or comparing love to a red rose, instead of doing such comparisons which we can easily relate to, metaphysical poets use comparisons which we can never relate to. So we'll remember their comparisons more, right? Because we always, when we think of strong love relations, we always think of two compass legs, because that remains, that strikes our mind, that comparison strikes our mind, it remains in our mind and we recollect them faster. Okay, because anyone and everyone can compare love to sweet things or to beautiful things, but you cannot compare love to things like compass, or you cannot compare, you cannot tell your, you can propose somebody telling that if you preserve your virginity it will go to the worms, so rather give it to me. You cannot be so realistic when you tell such things, right? So being realistic or being more extreme in comparisons, they are giving more effect to their work. So that is what metaphysical poetry all about. So you hope you got a fairer idea of metaphysical poets and their works. So that's all for the day. Thank you. Do like, share and subscribe if you'd like to listen to more such videos. Part 2 of the literary groups will follow. That will be Cavalier poets. Okay. Thank you.